Okay, it's doing it. So I don't know what happened.
Okay.
Very strange. So moment. There we go.
Ready?
And
Yes, we're streaming now. Oh,
okay, we got everything done.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry we're late. Little comedy of errors from all sorts of places. This is welcome to UNNC's Planning and Zoning Committee meeting for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. Our first order of business is to continue our obligation to announce that we will be holding this meeting remotely due to the COVID emergency. The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, BONC, and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, with the guidance from the City of Los Angeles Attorney, have established that BONC has the authority to adopt AB 361 findings pursuant to Government Code Section 549, 53, etc., on behalf of the city's neighborhood councils, and determine that due to the COVID-19 state of emergency, meeting in person would present imminent risks to the health and safety of attendees. This meeting is being conducted virtually pursuant to that directive, i.e. they haven't figured out how to go back to in person yet. That's editorial by me. So welcome to the Neighborhood Council Planning and Zoning Committee. So call to order. We go through, we have our standing rules where we have anyone who any stakeholder that attends the meeting is a voting member of that meeting. So we go around and we make introductions. If you wish to vote on anything this evening, please state your intent to vote and that you are indeed a stakeholder. If you have any questions about whether you're a stakeholder or not, you can ask them, but we'll go around. I'm John Arnold. I am the co-chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee with Laura Myers. So I'm admitting people into the room. And I am a stakeholder. I live in Jefferson Park, and I am a UNNC board member. Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura Myers. I think I know most of you. I am a longtime stakeholder in UNNC. I live in Angeles Vista, and I am on the board, which I'm co-chair of Planning and Zoning.
Teresa.
hello, everybody. My name is Teresa Masonette. I represent the West Adams Avenues on the board of the UNNC, and I too am a stakeholder.
Great. Mr. Pemrick.
Hi, I'm Donald Pemrick, longtime resident, 27 years on Harvard. I believe that makes me a stakeholder.
I think it does.
And, nice to see everyone.
Got a lot of long timers. I think I'm long timers here. Donna.
Muting is terrible for me. It takes me forever. Hi, Donna Jones, West Adams Avenues. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Dorit.
Hey there. There's cats yelling in the background. Sorry. Dorit, live in Harvard, few doors down from Don. I'm a relative newcomer, only been here for 3 years, but I am indeed a stakeholder. Thank you.
Dorit. And then Colin user 1, if you wish to identify yourself, please do. If you don't, you do not have to. Colin user. Okay. So let's proceed. I'm going to share my screen with the agenda. Share my screen. Everyone see this?
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so we've gone through item number 2 with our voting stakeholder affirmations and introductions. We're now at item 3. Anyone who has any public comment for anything that's not on the agenda this evening, please raise your hand. Okay. Going once, going twice. Okay, here.
Right. John, the only thing I'd want to say, because you skipped it real fast, the review of the agenda. On the item number 5, which feels like number 2, we need to wait theoretically for Taylor to get here. So I'm just going to ask if we need to move to 6 before 5. And we do have the information that Don had provided about the lawsuit on TOC. So I'll put that in the packet too. So we have a thing to discuss on number 6. I also feel we might have to do number 6 before we do number 5.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Any other, so there's so if Taylor is not here by the time we get to 5, we'll go to item number 6. We have some just old business that we can address. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing none. Let's go on to item number 4. This is brought to our attention by a stakeholder to something is happening in the neighborhood. And we were asked to agendize it for this meeting, which we've done. And we were looking to have a presentation by Hakeem at CD10. Or is that happening?
I don't know, but we do have, I put them up. I have the information, we can discuss it because 2 people who live on that block are present. So this is a way to, and even if Hakeem doesn't show up, it's a way to rediscuss what we sort of discussed last time we had the motion.
So you can see this as a discussion point only. This is not an action that we have authority or jurisdiction to vote on, but we thought it would be a good idea, especially since CD10 is in the know of this, what's happening in item 4, which Laura will describe, that it would be a good idea for the city to tell us what is happening because it is affecting a property in our district. So Laura, if you want to give a rundown of what the facts are, we can discuss.
Yeah, so if you want to, first of all, if you want to
Sure.
unshare the screen, you know how it goes. Well, I try to share the screen sometimes where Teresa has her hand up.
Yeah, do you have a comment, Teresa?
Yes, I do. John, remember I asked for this to be on the agenda, but I was really hoping that Hakeem would be here to explain it since last time he was here, he said that he was personally involved with creating this motion for our council person. So we can move forward with it, but I really have questions that I think are pertinent to him specifically and this motion. So Laura, what happened that
He said he was
invited him?
coming, remember? This was on his calendar. So I don't know. But we have people from the block who are here, so we
Yes.
should not table it.
Okay, well, I'm going to send him an email right now and let him know that we,
Okay.
Can we not table it, but maybe do another thing first and come back to this once Mr. Hakeem shows up?
We could. So John, that would mean
Bother.
we move on to other and then circle in a circle. But I could do that too. I'll share that. And this is what Donna had sent us. This is about TOC. So we're putting it under old business merely because we keep having a conversation. So Donna Jones forwarded this information to us, and there may be other business that John might pull up. But essentially, the TOC, Transit Oriented Community Program, a judge has ruled that it's not going to be able to be used readily in all parts of town. It doesn't throw it out 100%. But essentially what happened is an entity called Fix the City sued the city of Los Angeles regarding a project. I'm not that familiar with the project, but a project that was taking advantage of the Measure JJJ initiative, which created the Transit-Oriented Community Program that would give developers incentives if they created anywhere between 10 and 15% of affordable housing, depending on the how low income versus more moderate income people the project would be. So what happened is some developers applied for POC incentives within the Westwood specific one. And the entity, Fixed City, sued, and they sued based on the fact that the Westwood plan was created by ordinance, and the TOC program was not. It didn't go to city council. City council never adopted an ordinance establishing the TOC, transit-oriented community. So what the judge ruled was essentially, if a specific plan by ordinance, not the generic, it happened to be a specific, is a overlying layer of and on top of TOC. So this might explain, and John could now weigh in, why we're seeing more density bonus projects rather than TOC projects. In our area, we have a Crenshaw Boulevard specific plan. We have multiple HPOZs, some of which would be pertinent to this, and those are kind of specific plans. And we have the redevelopment, it's a recovery redevelopment plan that expires in a couple of years, but it too is a specific plan. All of those were adopted by ordinance. So that might explain why we're seeing, again, more density bonus projects if they're asking for extra incentives. So John, I don't know if you have heard anything about this. I've got this whole article, the Holland and Knight article, this is a law firm describing the case. It's in our agenda packet.
Yeah, it's actually a nice letter because it's very objective and it's factual. So what I see in this is about specific plans and TOC overriding specific plans. It doesn't. They're saying this specific plans supersede TOC. Right. So, and I'm guessing that this is about objective standards. So it's not saying TOCs don't apply in HPOZs, TOCs don't apply in specific plans. If TOC says 50 feet and the specific plan or HPOZ says 30 feet, specifically 30 feet prevails. So it's about what overrides what, but it's not. So it is a pecking order for specific plans, of which HPOZs are one. So it establishes some layers there. So the thing about TOC, and this is just background, this is not, in my opinion, is TOC is getting old. It's already 5 or 6 years old now. And it was also groundbreaking, and the state picked up on TOC. They knew it was being effective to create more housing. So what the state has done, it has created density bonus laws by law. State law overrides specific plans. State law now is mandating many things that are already included in TOC. And this is just for Laura's comment that in my world, and as I work with developers all the time, is that developers are looking more and more towards density bonus projects because they do have a shield of state law over them, whereas TOC has a lot of city discretion. And so I can see this being the beginning of the end of TOC, but I can also see it the beginning of the beginning or the mid-beginning of other rules coming in that are more based in law versus a program from the planning department, which TOC is not an ordinance, not a law necessarily. So I could see that shift happening. So I think this might be an accelerant to that shift happening. And it's not to say that state laws will ever override specific plans. I don't know what will happen, but I know density bonus rules are overarching. For example, if you're in a transit-rich corridor and a density bonus law allows you to have 22 extra feet, you get 22 extra feet over whatever the underlying rule is. So there's that. So it's a question of what kinds of rules override other kinds of rules. So that's generally what is that clear? Any questions on that? So yeah. So I don't think this would have affected, now we could talk shop. I don't think this would have affected any case in our area that used TOC. I don't have a memory of a specific plan case that we've seen over the past 5 years that had TOC add on to it. We've certainly had base zoning cases, for example, 1848 Gramercy. That wasn't TOC, excuse me. I have to think of one. But that TOC did anything more than add to base zoning. So I'm not sure if this lawsuit had come up earlier, if it would have changed anything in our district. So I'd have to look through our files. Any comments, questions, ideas?
Specific plan overrides everything.
Specific plan supersedes TOC.
Well,
TOC.
that's what this judge ruled, noting it's not appellate or Supreme Court decision. But it's logical because it's not an ordinance. So ordinances override. TOC was not even adopted by the city council. It was simply something the planning, they were authorized to do it this way by JJJ, but the city planning department wrote it and planning commission adopted it. And that was the end of that. So the city council in response to this judge's ruling could also make it an ordinance and put it into the municipal code. They could do that if that was something anybody wanted to do. But it's time consuming. I think part of the purpose was to do it fast. Gramercy was originally a TOC and then they dumped it. They withdrew their thing and came back as a DB.
Yeah, they flippity-flopped all over the place, yeah.
Right. But I think the reason was to take advantage of the state law. And I am personally no longer certain because I keep reading the state law. I mean, I read it over and over and over again. And the state law does not say, I mean, it basically says you can have all this stuff if you're consistent with the zoning. So the real question becomes the different lawsuit wording. If anyone ever sues to say, well, if a specific plan is your zoning, then if you ask for, 12 incentives instead of 2, that wouldn't be consistent with the zoning. That's one legal theory. And then there's obviously the other legal theory that says, no, they said, as long as they approve it, it is consistent, meaning the approval itself makes it consistent. Very, very technical. But Donna thought, and whoever sent it to Donna thought this was a really interesting case. I had been hearing rumors. This is the case I've been hearing rumors about because apparently a lot of the initial rulings by the judge were going in favor of Fix the City, before he did a final.
Yep.
So I've been hearing about this for some time.
So I think no one's alarmed by it. I think it's been.
Oh, I'm thrilled by it, John.
I'm just saying, I think there's, well, we can all give it our, should we take a go around the room and tell it.
No, I mean, I think as a community member, I want certainty. And if we certainly got, if an HPOZ was established or the Krentoff specific plan, which took 10 years to establish, was adopted, there's the certainty that they are there and we should be following the rules. That's a different kind of certainty. A developer also wants certainty. So even if this goes against some ideas of development, at least they know it. So if they have the certainty that for TOC, they shouldn't be trying to vary too far from a specific, or use the specific plan procedures, because you can apply for acceptance, and there's still procedures where you can get a higher, taller, fatter, less, fewer setbacks. You can still do it anyway. In the specific plan, it's just a different procedure. It's not automatic.
Yeah, the only thing that TOC has that density bonus doesn't have is FAR provisions. FAR is also starting to become a dying thing as foreign-based comes on board.
And we're getting very wonky.
It's hard to get density FAR increases out of the density bonus because there's no provision for it. So anyway, it is wonky, but I think it's TOC is it's probably on its way out, but it will probably be replaced by other things that might be better made, that might be better tailorable, or even who knows what the state's going to come up with.
So speaking of Taylor, spelled differently, Taylor's here. So we could, if you want to repost the agenda, we could do now item
Well, let's do finish item 6. Is there any other old business that anyone wants to talk about? Okay, hearing
Oh,
none.
yeah, I do. The livable communities. So just to explain to everybody, just 2.5 weeks ago in this Zoom room, or 3 weeks ago at our last meeting, we had discussed the, what do we call it, LIC? Anyway,
LCI.
LCI, Livable Communities Initiative, as an item we would come back to and kind of lollygag through December and bring to the governing board at the January board meeting, because it was going to take a while for city council to get to it. And within days, it was proving wrong, that city council was speeding it along. So at our board meeting, which most of you were not present at, we did adopt the draft community impact statement and still thought we had a week or two to finesse it. But no, it was heard today at city council. So John and I sped along and got it finalized and turned in. So if you're on the board, you got an email, I think. But essentially we were able to file, and just UNNC and previously the Manchester North area neighborhood council have filed a community impact statement. So that's done. And what it is the motion that council, I think, passed today, was on council's agenda, is to have the planning department and other departments create a report. So this is not the last bite at the apple, and we'll probably want to look at the draft report, and we may or may not like it. As always, Teresa, we did get in the end the tree. Well, we did, because we got it in. We got as much as we could get in. We got affordable housing in. We got no. I keep wanting to say dislocation. What's it called? What's the right?
Generational wealth was one I wanted to get in there.
Yeah,
Right, generational wealth. But what is it when it's not dislocation, when people lose their home?
When they what?
What did we say? It's not dislocation. It is
Displacement?
Thank you. Displacement. Got that in.
Laura, I can post the text in the chat once Taylor takes over. If anyone's
Okay.
interested in reading that.
Well, if Taylor's taking over, yeah. The actually, John, there was a little glitch. We had our word count didn't match, so I had to edit within the portal just a little. So,
Okay.
but whatever you might post will be fine. It's gonna be almost exact, almost exact. But
Okay. So that one's done. Check it off our list, and we'll get it. It's only a directive right now to make our study. So it's no ordinance being passed, no new incentives are popping up tomorrow. So we'll probably, I'm guessing they'll have a report in 6 months, 9 months, 8 months.
yeah, they asked for 90 days. That's not going to happen.
That's it.
I mean, it's just not going to happen. And the thing we didn't write, I mean, it would have been nice if we could write a long letter, because the thing we didn't write was you can't have a livable community if you don't have trees. So, I mean, there's just a way to, but that started to take too long because we only have, X
So
number of.
I thought what we said was good.
Yeah,
We did, right.
Yeah, you mentioned trees on those last two lines were fine. I saw the CIS, and all of the promotional items have beautiful canopy. So, I can't imagine them trying to create this without having trees in the back of their mind, if not in the forefront. So,
Right, but it's the automatic waivers of any setback would kind of interfere with the ability to have trees.
Or take the highway dedications that we've been putting in and
Right,
put it out the street. It doesn't matter
Right.
which.
right.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay,
John,
any
if you
other-
wanted
any
to
other old
repost that agenda item, and
Uh,
Taylor's here, and I have the motion and the urbanized article, so, however you want to do this.
Okay, so Taylor, we're gonna hand it over for you we should go to item number 5, which is the city council motion, speaking of the devil, to reform the city's street dedication process. So
Right,
I'm
so,
Okay.
eager to hear.
but
all-
what part should I share? The motion itself first?
Yeah, let's look at the motion itself.
Okay. And
I'm also going to stay camera off. Please excuse me, but I'm having some upload bandwidth issues.
And
Okay,
Taylor,
so-
by the way, Taylor is our committee chair, is it, for transportation committee. It's not a committee, it's an ad hoc committee.
It's a
Subcommittee.
subcommittee to us. And can you see this screen?
It's coming. No, all we see is a green field.
Huh. Okay, I'm gonna unshare and try again. This has been the problem lately, hasn't it? So here we go. Try it again. And so tell me what you think. Anything?
You got it.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So the motion here from Nithya Raman and I think Mike Bonin as well is about this thing that I really didn't know about, or I didn't know exactly what it was, which is that developers are sometimes required to widen roads as they're doing developments, and they then can request exceptions to these widenings through a process where they get a waiver to widen the roads. Nithya Raman and Mike Bonin are asking city agencies to research and write a report about how this should change. Basically, as you can see in this image, this is resulting in a kind of weird hodgepodge where you get partially widened roads. Seemingly, the idea behind this was that if you had developers widen the roads all the time, eventually one day in 1,000 years or something, we would have much wider roads in Los Angeles, and this would be a benefit for traffic congestion. It doesn't seem to be doing what it was intended to do. Development doesn't happen fast enough for the roads to actually be widened. And then a new body of research and a new kind of view on the world is that road widening doesn't actually do anything for traffic. Some prominent examples of this were the recent-ish widening of the 405. They added a new lane. It was only a few weeks where traffic was actually improved. And today traffic times on the 405 are even slower than they were before the widening. The motion here is that from the city council is that the city agencies will make a recommendation to change this, and they're instructed to consider equity and consider these ideas of road widening being a negative impact on Angelenos. So our motion, I think, the motion I would like to make is that we write a CIS in support of what Nithya Raman and Mike Bonin, and Bob Blumenfield as well, what they've suggested here, where we support them in asking for these city agencies to reevaluate the current system that they have. Interestingly, I will paste a couple of things into the chat. So I read the Steve Lopez article in the LA Times, and I didn't even know that it was about this issue. I don't know if this is what inspired it, but I found this really interesting. Road was widened, and they plan to put a bike lane there, but it's really a bike lane to nowhere. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere because it's just in front of one development. So it's sort of expensive and silly. And then the other thing I'll add here is some research by a UCLA professor. He teaches at UCLA Luskin, works on housing and transportation issues, and he has a whole paper on this exact system. Calls it unproductive and doesn't really make any sense. Says importantly that it almost certainly creates more bottlenecks than it removes. So I think we should write a CIS in support of this, and I have a template of something that we can go off of here if we're in agreement. I don't have sharing power, so I will send this to you.
No, we
Laura.
can give you sharing powers. It's so easy.
Okay, yeah,
There
let's do
you
it.
go. You can
Okay, so
share.
I found, so that we don't have to write a CIS from scratch. Here is one that is from the Mid-City West Neighborhood Council. I think it's maybe a little bit long, but maybe a little
Yeah.
bit heavy-handed, but I think we can delete parts of this and maybe have something that is appropriate for our council.
Well, just if I may speak now, John. Okay. Oh, John's muted. So I'm not muted, so I am going to speak. Taylor, what you may not know, maybe only John knows, the group that's here, I don't know, but UNNC spent some time and years ago developing a proposed specific plan for Washington. Part of the goal was to eliminate exactly this. Washington Boulevard was built as the city's first 100-foot wide road and corridor in 1897. So it's 100 feet wide, and it should not have required any dedication, but at some point the federal standard for the defined street that it is became 104 feet wide. So, we wanted a specific plan to say 100 feet fine, so that we don't have to have the ins and outs that we're discussing here. The school that the Carson Gore School at Washington and Third, between Arlington and Third, did have to sit back because nothing had been adopted yet. But so we've been dealing with it for years, and there is also proposal, very draft consulting kind of proposal in the Harvard Heights HPOZ for a project on Western, where they're having to show at the moment a dedication that's like 9 feet. So the street would go in and then would come right back out. And of course, it's in an HPOZ. The building, which are contributors, will not be demolished anytime soon. And it would impact, bicyclists, pedestrians. I mean, it just seems dumb. Dumb is not a technical word. But I feel that we could do a CIS that is a little personalized to UNNC. What I just said was way too long, but maybe personalize it, since we already have wide streets. Do they really need to be wider? And I think the other example from years ago, the no longer new shopping center at Crenshaw and Jefferson to Bronson was also going to be required by the Bureau of Engineering to have on Jefferson 3 or 4 foot dedication, which among other things would have impacted the retention of the former Bank of Tokyo building. And actually the community did an appeal so that the applicant, the entity developer building that shopping center, didn't have to pay its fee again. The community did an appeal to ask that there not be a required street dedication, and that worked. But I think part of the purpose of this motion is to stop making it where you have to apply to not do it. That is just a bad idea to begin with. Bureau of Engineering will oppose it. They like to use the federal standards for road width. And this doesn't mention that, so I think we should mention in our CIS that it is not necessary. There's no requirement that the city 100% adhere to federal standards. But, with something technical. Okay, I'm done.
I have things to say, but anyone else have an opinion on this? I'm totally for this. Highway dedications are, using a 4-letter word I can use in this meeting, dumb. They are antiquated. They just make more pavement. They make less room for trees. They make less room for housing. They make wider, busier streets that are the only thing I've justified in my mind that they might be good for is that at some point, it's not a street widening, it's a dedication to public property, that the street gets narrower and we get more space for trees and bike lanes and sidewalks and things for people, outdoor dining, whatever it is. So basically, sometimes I'm hopeful that we can have long linear parks that have allays on them with a narrow 2-lane road in the middle, but that probably ain't never gonna happen. So I'm all for this. It makes for weird looking cities where it goes in and out. I know for a fact that Jefferson, cutting through the Jefferson Park HPOZ, has, if any development goes on and this doesn't, and the dedications don't get waived for historical purposes, the street gets 7 feet wider on both sides. So in some cases 9 feet. So we just know this historic buildings aren't going to be ever torn down if the HPOZ has anything to say about it. And then the next building down is step back 7 feet. It's anti-historical, it's anti-urban, it doesn't look good, it doesn't function well. And I have already seen, I know we all had an upset when Adams got some lanes removed, but it seems like Adams has sorted itself out, and Adams has become kind of pleasant on that stretch since they did that, in my opinion. So anyway, I'm all for this, and I agree with Laura to make it a little more focused on things that might happen in our neighborhood that we would be certainly against. And I'm for this. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah. So I apparently know the least about this issue from anyone here. I had never heard of this until I heard the motion. So I had no context about Washington or Jefferson having these dedications required. So just as a matter of running the meeting, should we dedicate a little bit of time to editing this as a group? Maybe we can do that quickly, or do we want to vote in favor of this in general, and then we can work on editing something that we like better? What do you think?
I think we can summarize the points that we've made and then agree on the summary of those points, and then integrate them into the CIS outside of this meeting.
Okay.
Hard to words.
And Taylor, in terms of timing, at our last meeting, it was basically decided we're skipping the December 21 meeting and not meeting again until January 4, which is still before the board meeting on the 5th. So we can tonight make a recommendation, that it be drafted based on bullet points, and then spend almost a month drafting it, right? And it would need to be finished by, well, based on Greg and Paula's schedule, we would probably need to be finished by the 28th of December, so it could get inserted into the governing board agenda as a draft, and the planning and zoning committee agenda as a draft. So the language be inserted onto the agenda. If we want to be really sticky, or wait and just put the item on the agenda and stick the draft into the agenda. Okay. So we have time in other.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can get something more or less finalized, like a finalized draft before the executive meeting on the 21st or whenever that was. If we could just
we don't need we don't need to pass it by the executive committee. We just need to give the executive committee our agenda item.
Right.
Does anyone have any additional thoughts that are contrary or different, or in addition to what's already been said? Okay, so this is my summary would be, I'm going to go right from my memory. We generally support this.
Right.
Are
you writing it in the chat?
He's typing it right here in the he's typing as we go. Taylor's.
Okay.
Can I just
We do have a
clarify
live transcript tonight.
John, when you say this, I just want to distinguish a little bit between the the motion seems to be requesting that the city agencies revise their recommendation. Are we just supportive of the motion, or do we want to be a little more proactive like the Mid-City West group was and say that what we're actually in support of is ending the street widening?
I don't know about ending street widening, because I think in some cases it would be not needed, but I think the automatic street dedication, absolutely. That's what I would be in support.
Right. Yep. Okay. From everything I've learned in the last 2 weeks, I am on board with this as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but I think it's important to indicate it is the Bureau of Engineering that's going to be the problem. So I don't want to say that. Bureau of Engineering is stubborn, but they are. So I think we would request that City Council instruct the Bureau of Engineering to stop relying 100% on the federal,
Well,
I've already forgotten it, street width recommendations.
But there's also
Standards.
mobility plan has added to that as well.
I
Mobility
understand.
plan has added to some of the widening.
Right.
So
But as Donna might remember, when there's a fourplex on the corner of 25th and 4th Avenue called the Roberta Apartments. And when they were becoming condominiums, so they're city historic monuments, but when the owner converted them to condominiums, the Bureau of Engineering was to the bitter end requiring that they essentially cut off the entire corner of their front lawn so that people could, because the federal standards would say new construction wasn't new, it was just newly to be a condo. But they were going to cut the 25 feet off the corner for the front lawn, and they wouldn't get rid of their recommendation that had to go all the way to the city council to come to. So they're stubborn. I don't know if there's another word. So I would want to just make sure we give our recommendation that the city itself, including the Bureau of Engineering, but the city itself, stop relying 100%. And I can give you the technical language. Because
So
I mean, I don't know if anybody ever drives on Overland basically between Pico south to Venice, and it's in and out and in and out. And it's a terrible street because of new construction and old buildings.
So I would say let's make a list of reasons why. I mean, I think we already established that we have historic districts that will never be widened fully. So and that's
we have several already wide streets, specifically Washington Boulevard, which is already 100, historically and currently 100 feet wide. So it's silly to have a 104-foot requirement. It's pretty darn wide already. Oh, there's some streets that are identified as collector street. Those are residential streets. And a collector street supposedly has to be a certain length, but they're not actually collecting traffic. In other words, they were long ago for some reason identified as collector street. But Gramercy being an example. And that was before the freeway. I mean, they're not streets that run through to anything.
Yep. These are basically antiquated. I know St. Andrews is collector street. So when it hits Jefferson, there has to be a big corner cut there.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I'm thinking, Teresa, why don't you go ahead, and then I'll give kind of a longer thought.
I was just going to say, we also have scenic highways, like Adams is a scenic highway. I don't know if that adds to that or not.
Yeah, it does.
So I am thinking that so I want to go through quickly the mid city west one and see if there's
Sure.
stuff we can pull from there. So I actually really like this idea.
Yeah.
I often find it frustrating that different city agencies seem to be doing different things or have different ideas and purposes, or a city agency may be going against a policy from the city council. So I do like the idea of stating a city policy here and using that to defend the action. So I do like this if we think that that'd be something to keep.
And by the way, we can always do both a CIS, meaning no more than 2,000 characters and spaces, and an accompanying letter that can be longer, or even much longer, to flesh out our ideas.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I guess we'll see how long my draft ends up.
Okay.
I'm going to suggest that we strike this part about housing. As much as I am a hardcore pro housing advocate, I think this is maybe a logical stretch. So I think for space, we can, keep this about things that our council cares more about, which is why I think we keep this part. I know that our council has a very strong interest in mature street trees. So this is, I think, a line that we keep.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Taylor, because oftentimes developers don't actually widen them. They just dedicate the land and now the infrastructure stays where it is. So I think I agree with you. I think it's specious. I think the bigger thing is that it takes land away from that could be used for housing. If you take 7 feet along a 150-foot dedication, that's 1,000 square feet of land stacked up 6 stories. That's 6,000 square feet of housing you could be missing. So makes projects bigger, denser, everything else.
Well, the other thing, John, is for those developers who actually want to have projects that don't totally impact the residential areas right behind them, if they don't have to move their buildings back, they can keep them forward. Then there can be the transitional height and the rear yard setback. Yeah, in other words, give them the backyard instead of the front yard. Of course, I know a lot of the projects we see now don't even want any yards, but they're also saying they can't do the transitional height. And if you take away 9 feet from them, it's harder to do transitional height to the rear.
That's correct.
Okay, the 2 other paragraphs that I'm just going to suggest we probably strike these to try and fit under the limit are these 2. I think these are important and great, but maybe I can shorten them to talk about crossing distance and the lack of pedestrian friendliness. Maybe this is 1 sentence instead of 3. And this I actually think is kind of important because it's the first thing that's mentioned in the actual motion, which is the incoherentness of the incoherence of the streets. That it just seems very strange, and this will be particularly important for our neighborhood, as I've learned, if Jefferson and is one of the roads. It'll just permanently be incoherent.
And they talk about the incoherence of the street, but it's also the incoherence of the block face, right? The street face. And we live in an area with streetcar commercial corridors, Washington, Jefferson, Pico. And then Western would not be a streetcar commercial corridor, neither would Crenshaw. But on those streetcar commercial corridors, the goal would be to have the face of the building all in the same plane. You know, I mean, the buildings themselves should be articulated, but their bases should all be on the same plane, not in and out and in and out. So it's not just the street itself going in and out, but also the building. In and out is not a technical phrase. John could give the technical.
I missed what you said because it was.
Well, it's the keeping it the plane, the street face on these corridors. Consistent. PLANE.
Oh, yeah.
But there's another, I mean, it's
The
even in the preservation plan,
street
the
wall,
Jefferson Park
street wall.
street wall.
Was a classic example of this. We did a project on Main Street downtown, right in the heart of the historic district, new building infill. And it is set back, I think, 5 feet from all these other 10-story old school buildings. And it's just dumb. Dumb.
Right. So we can write in our CIS, probably not, that we kept using the word that this is just dumb.
Yeah.
Because it is just dumb. I mean, I don't know. Should we go to casual language sometimes? I don't know.
We can use synonyms for dumb, like nonsensical,
Yeah.
defies logic.
But of course, dumb is
throws-
only 4 letters.
Throws urban design standards in the garbage. And throws out, accepted urban design standards for street walls.
Right.
There's all sorts of ways we can rephrase dumb.
Right. Yeah,
Ill-
but on the
ill-advised.
other hand, the word dumb is only 4 letters.
Ill-advised.
Okay. Teresa had her hand up for the longest time. I don't know if you just got tired.
No, 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 I'm good.
Okay, I think we have a lot to go on here. I appreciate all the information, Laura and John. I'm learning a lot this evening. So I can write up using this information, these talking points, and the things that we highlighted from Mid-City West. I can write up a draft CIS in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I guess for us, we need to make a motion and vote to that we support that.
Just one correction, Taylor. Jefferson is not a
Yeah,
wide.
sorry.
It's not a wide street right now, but it's surrounded by historic buildings. It will never be widened. So for lots that are subject to highway dedications,
So Washington and Western are very wide. Jefferson is not, but
yes,
right.
thanks. If that was a motion, I second that.
Well, I don't know. What's the motion? Who made the motion? I see it not typed. By the way, I'll say it again, though, tonight we do have the live transcript. So I'll be able to send that to Taylor, but we should, and we've got the motion, I think, in the live transcript. And I think the motion was to support the council motion and write a CIS that addresses the items we have discussed tonight. Is that more or less the motion?
That's better than how I said it. Yeah, that is the motion.
I'll second.
And who made the motion? Was it Laura or Taylor?
Let's say Laura.
Fine, Laura made the motion.
Can the chairs both move and second?
I think I've never heard a rule against that. I'm not a pro.
Yeah, no,
on Roberts,
John,
but
we cannot at the board meeting.
Okay, got it.
At the board meeting, one, you or me or Taylor, just one of us, can make the motion at the board meeting, and then somebody who's not a chair can pass the second.
Okay,
Okay, let's vote then. All in favor. Let's see some hands.
Maybe we can stop the share.
Okay, and anybody opposed?
Oops. I am not opposed.
All right, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in favor, none opposed. All right,
Okay.
I will get to work on this and have something to share in the next couple weeks.
Okay. And Taylor, I'll send you this transcript when I get it. It'll be fun to read.
Okay.
Well, the
thank
computer
you,
doesn't
Laura.
necessarily use the same words as we think we use.
Right, yeah. Okay, looking forward to it.
Okay. So I've been checking my email. I do not see any further response from Hakeem, but I feel we do have people from Harvard. We should go back to from Harvard, go back to the agenda item.
so I guess we'll have to use our own knowledge we can to discuss it because it's on the agenda.
Yeah, and we probably remember what Hakeem did tell us, so that we can pass that on, that information on. So I'm going to share the motion from this being the council motion. It was written by Hakeem, who is the planning deputy for Council District 10, and moved by Heather Hodge, seconded by the letter M. But essentially, what the motion says and then what the explanation was, the explanation is not in the motion. But the motion that was passed by City Council was to support the entity, the CFCDA, to issuance of a series, one or more revenue bonds or notes in an aggregate rating principal amount not to exceed $16 million, to acquire and then rehab 2 apartments. One is at 1938 South Harvard, and the other is at 4230 West Allen Boulevard. And there's a family that's owned these 2 properties for a very, very long time, and they're now selling it to an affordable housing developer. Who's asking for essentially in order to, this is not, but it's essentially in order to rehab and retain the affordability of the building. So
Laura,
I don't know
you're breaking
if
up.
this is beginning to look messy on my end, so should I unshare this? Stop the share.
I think so.
Stop the share, and Laura, it's really hard to hear you.
Okay.
It's a little bit better.
Yeah, it's not gonna be much better, but in any case, the idea, what we discussed with Hakeem was that this was to allow a affordable housing developer to purchase and then rehabilitate these 2 buildings and retain their affordability. Obviously, the first question that we asked was, will it retain the same people? Or the people who are living there now going to find themselves in a situation where they live where they are displaced. And new people seeking affordable housing get put in with the rehab. And I didn't get a clear answer. extensive experience with them. So, Teresa.
The way I remember it, he said that the developer was going to modify, update the building, so that the tenants that were in it would be able to remain, and have affordable housing and not be displaced because of other housing that was being built. I mean, I have several questions about it. But on one way, I think it's a good idea. I mean, look, people are getting displaced, rents are increasing, developers and owners are increasing the rent, as people move out and people can't afford it. So, some people get displaced. So to have a 55-year deed restricted building that's going to be updated with this bond so that the people who live there will be able to remain, and have affordable housing, I think is a good idea. My questions though are, is this happening anywhere else in CD10 or only in our area? And is it happening anywhere else in the city? Are other council members obtaining bonds and trying to retain retain renters in modified buildings? So I'd like to get some more information. So I'm really disappointed that he's not here. And I'm also disappointed that it wasn't confirmed before him, Laura. What did he confirm with you? Did you talk to him?
Well, you're saying that to me, but I think that's equally me and John. So he had said, I mean, we set it for this meeting because at the last meeting, he said, I'm putting it on my calendar and I'll be there and I'll bring the developer. So,
right, but I mean, we do have an obligation to follow up and say, hey, I just want to confirm that you're going to be here. We've added you to the agenda and we're looking forward to hearing from you and this developer. I mean, we're not the only neighborhood council he has. I'm not making excuses for him, but that doesn't seem like something that he would just kind of blow off. So anyway, that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, Dorit has her hand up.
I got a lot of questions that I'm sure nobody here can answer. Who is the developer?
That I can't answer.
Okay.
It's
Besides this motion, then, what is the funding? And I ask that because certain funding streams will make it for who's allowed to live there. Say if the Veterans Administration is the funder, then it's only for vets. If it's Department of Mental Health is the funder, then it's only for persons with mental health issues that are currently under the DMH care. Do we know if there's other funders besides this one?
Besides the bonds?
Yeah.
This I do not know, but I will tell you, the partnership is something that they created. Harvard Adams Housing Partners Limited Partnership. And the developer is something called Vitus, VITUS Group, LLC.
All right.
And I'm gonna, while we're talking, I think I have more information than that.
Okay,
I look it up while we're talking.
I don't think I've ever heard of them. Will there be service providers on site, case managers on site? Or is it a population doesn't need that? If it's a set aside for affordable, if it's like, okay, this is going to be affordable, do we know what the percentage is? Because there is percentage of average medium income, like 80% or 50% or 20% for affordability categories. And if it is that means some people who, and if they're doing this to make sure everyone who's currently living there can stay there, and that sounds so freaking lovely. But if someone makes too much money, then they can't live there anymore. So if they're saying we're gonna do this, this what's gonna happen in the building in Chinatown that they're gonna buy, that the city's gonna buy and make affordable. A lot of people, or maybe not a lot, anyone who's making above whatever the percentage is, be it 80% all the way down to, less than 20%, is then going to have to leave. So it doesn't prevent people from leaving So those are just some questions I've got that nobody on this call
Yeah,
can
well, you know
actually
what?
answer.
Those were the questions I asked last time. That's my same concern. That
You
once
did
you
say
come,
there were going to be services, though, that one of the buildings would have services, because I asked, well, what kind of services? So,
So then if a building is gonna have services, then unless the people who are currently, then that means there's gonna be some funding from from a stream that would deal with people with certain criterias that would need to have services, then it necessarily wouldn't be you know, a way to save this building so people who live there can live there. And like I said, I've got a whole mess of questions and just sorry, I guess no one here can answer them. So maybe this could be
Well,
brought
let me
back again when this cat can come and answer them.
yeah, the timing is that we didn't capture the deal, as it were, until after city council had, in a pro forma manner, already voted. So when I say pro forma, basically this was an application by the proposed owner. I mean, at the time, I'm checking right now as we're talking to see if there's been a transfer of ownership, but this was a request by the entity that wanted to buy it and then do this project for the bond funding. And in order to issue bond funding, the city has to say, yeah, it's a good idea. You know, that was their action, was, yep, good idea. And so I don't know if the bond's been issued. It seems that it would have happened real quick. I just don't know how quickly bonds are issued. And I don't know if 16 million is enough for the total for the acquisition and the rehab. I mean, that's a lot of money, but I don't think that's enough. A lot of money. So the council motion didn't have all the details. And we really should have more information, but there's no action for us to take in this moment, nor was there 2 weeks to 3 weeks ago. The council had already adopted a essentially a resolution to say yes, it's a good idea, to acknowledge it. So, John, while I'm trying to find property records, but I can't see any hands, unfortunately.
No,
Can you take over doing the co-chair stuff, please?
Don has his hand up.
Yeah, yeah, Dorit pretty much summed up my frustration with this too, is that this gentleman wasn't here. Because we do have a lot of questions. I know a lot of people in that apartment building, and it's my understanding it's full. I know this because we've walked in, we've, you know, gone around with parking things and issues and knocked on the doors, and we know a lot of the people there, and I can't fathom they're not going to be displaced, or whatever the word you were saying earlier. So that's a big question. You already addressed
Right.
it. And was there any, when they were talking about refurbishing the building, are they going to keep it the same height? Are they going to add units? Are they going to, did he bring that up? I was just curious.
As far as I know, it's only it's securing a building to be affordable housing, not to change it.
Okay, okay.
I know
But as of this moment, at least within the last, unless something happened in the last 11 days, it's still owned by the longtime owner. Like I said, I'm checking property
Okay.
records.
And
So it's still owned by Walton Halad, Halad
Yeah.
company.
And there's also, there's no physical address 1938. We know.
Yeah, there
we
is.
all know that, right?
Well, there is, that's the technical address, but I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
got
there
property
is no,
records.
there is no 1938. When the property, when the building was built, they took 2 lots and made it into one, because it's actually one building. It's one building on 2 lots. So they're talking, I'm asking, they're talking about the entire structure or half of it.
Oh, the whole
There is
thing.
no 1938 Harvard, currently.
Yeah, there's a whole series of addresses. I think you might be correct.
Yeah, there's,
Although on Zenith, it comes up as 1938. That's half of it.
right.
So
That comes up on the proposal, but on the street, there's no 1938, but
got it.
okay. Well, hopefully we get this guy back and we can talk to him. Thank you.
Yeah, he's Hakeem. He's a good guy. He's on our side.
Yeah.
He might be on our side, but if something, you could be a nice guy and all that, but if something doesn't make sense, it still doesn't make sense. And I'm really concerned about the income level they make the percentage level they make the affordability cap at. Because people might find themselves losing their apartment because
Right.
Yeah.
they get a raise, you know?
Dory, remember the house on Oxford, the 12 unit? They evicted 9 of the 12.
They
Right,
who?
the-
They who?
The owners, because they Dory, no, what did they make it?
Sorry. For persons who are currently experiencing homelessness, there's a transitional housing.
Transitional housing. And the tenants, the long-term tenants that were in there all got evicted. Two fought it and stayed. But the other 8 all got kicked out.
I
Some,
think
if you don't really know what you're doing, if you don't understand all the beautiful bureaucracy that's involved, you could really screw something up.
Right.
And John, you know that you work for developers.
I think the intent of this is to do exactly what you want to avoid, is to not have people get evicted, because right now it's a city sitting duck market rate-ish thing. And so I think this is the city's picking, I don't know if it's low-hanging fruit, but it's fruit that they can say, if we buy this, we can secure all these affordable housing, whatever
Right.
bucket it's coming from, whatever RENA number they're trying to make, whatever fund they're tapping into, this is part of their blanket approach to meet their affordable housing numbers.
But they're assuming everyone who lives there is working class or lower. And I don't know, it could be beautiful and it could work wonderfully, but if it isn't done right, it could explode.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot of retired people in there too.
if nothing is done, it will likely.
Yeah.
I want it to be done. I just wanted to make sure that it's done well. And believe me, I'd rather have everything affordable housing. I'm not one of those people saying not have it. I just don't want to see it explode. And I really wish this dude was here to explain a little bit more.
Teresa?
Thank you, John. Just to be fair to Hakeem, and I'm not trying to take sides, he was a former city planner for Echo Park. And when I saw this and brought it to your attention, I wasn't really happy about it, because I think I speak for some other people in our community. We carry a lot of affordable housing already. And to have now to use a bond to increase supportive housing, affordable housing, public housing, Section 8, okay, is the rest of the city carrying this load too, not just this part of South LA? So I'm disappointed that he's not here. I really hope that we can, Laura, you can work out with him to come in and not only explain or answer some of Dorit's questions, but some of mine, which has a little different perspective. But I just want to say that he seems like a very nice person. He does have a very strong background in city planning. And I do think he's advocating for some of the things that some of the people on this call would like to see. Not me in particular.
So if I haven't heard from him via email, I know I'm actually speaking on the 14th. So talk to him about the important things coming to our next meeting, which won't be the 21st or whenever. I mean, again, there's been no transaction of purchase and the council's already had. It is, the project has to be, if this means anything to anyone, a qualified residential rental project pursuant to section 142A7 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. I have no idea what that is. But again, it sounds to me that it has to be a public purpose project and it's going to be a 55-year thing. And I agree with Dorit, I agree with I feel people who live there now, I mean, it's going to retain affordable units, but it's not necessarily going to retain the particular house. Retain the housing. And, you know, and I'm going to say it's the same thing that began, you know, so many of these projects we're seeing around town. The right of return, for example, only works for people who are in qualified on some of these ground up projects. But like what Hakeem also said, I think this is more related to the Boulevard building than the Harvard Heights HPC building, is that it can be torn down unless it's retained. So I don't think the one on Harvard in West Adams Heights Hill within the Harvard Heights HPC could easily be just torn down. It's a much larger complex than it is. But when the Adams Boulevard one could just, you know, be turned down. And I'm guessing the family who owns these buildings is ready to sell. They've owned it for decades. Anyway,
Donna's hand is up.
Donna has her hand up.
Sorry, Donna.
As Teresa was saying, it does seem like maybe, well, I'm not everywhere. My niece lives in another area closer to the valley. We spend an awful lot of time talking about a lot of what we've done already, but not what other people are doing. And I just feel like trying to tear down what we have and putting in larger spaces that are focused toward people who are elderly or in need of housing or whatever. I understand fully what is needed in the city, but it's not all needed in Mid-City. And I wonder why the 10th district carries such a large load and why we seem to be expected to. I just sort of feel like when they work it out, they're going to make it so south of the 10 will be the main space where they put all that, and then the state will let them alone. So I just don't know. It's a concern of mine. That's why I was wondering about the specific plans and some of the other things, that we have a fair share and a functional amount of this housing or that housing or whatever, because we all have families and children and people who need housing too. So it needs to be a fair share sort of situation. There are 15 council districts, and it seems like the 10th district carries a lot.
Oh, can I just be snarky? I guess not, because Taylor has his hand up. Taylor.
Yeah, so I don't think I have any, I honestly don't know that much about this particular building, but I just you know, I moved from Venice, like you guys know, and I heard a lot in Venice people saying the same thing, like why does Venice have all of the affordable housing? So I actually don't think that Venice ever did. So I mean, I don't know if we have data to back up that we actually have the bulk of affordable housing, but you know, when I was in Venice, we had the Rose development, the Lincoln development, the development on the Median, the Metro 6 development, and those were all just within probably a half a mile of my house. So like four big developments for previously homeless individuals. So I saw, Teresa, you were nodding your head, but I think before we say like we've done enough, or, you know, we shouldn't do this. Like, I'd like to make sure we have some actual data that says that we've done more than others for real. Because I feel like I hear this argument from
Well,
everyone.
we can drive around and show you, Taylor, exactly what we're talking about. Anytime you feel like it, I can show you the last 6 developments that were brought within 5 minutes of where I live at 7th Avenue and Adams. And they were all the same thing. All the same.
I understand.
I want.
Donna, I understand that, but like I said, I could drive you around Venice and show you all the developments in Venice. So I think I'm not disagreeing
Well, then
with
we
you, but
shouldn't
I
have
think
a problem. Then Taylor, we shouldn't have a problem, because if Venice is doing what we're doing, and if all of the 15 districts are doing what you're saying, then we're not going to have a problem.
well, I don't think.
So we shouldn't have open debates here. We should have opinions and discussions. But there's no data that we have. We don't know if we have 1/15 of it, or 1/8, or 1/6, or 1/2. We don't know. And it's not evidence to say there is one here, and here, and here, because I just had a groundbreaking in Westchester for 102 units in Westchester.
Right.
Like Bonin. So,
John, I bet you the controller does or could easily have the data.
might be.
Maybe on the controller's website. But
I might prove Donna absolutely 100% correct.
Right. But I would also say I've spent years, because I'm friends with her, talking to Jan Perry and Bernard Park, when they were simultaneously council members for CD8 and CD9. This was their conversation all the time. Why is it all happening in those 2 districts, 8 and 9? Because they weren't getting the economic development, they were just getting the low-income housing. And you need, I think any community needs all of it. Meaning, if you have only affordable housing, what we're seeing is that the retail on the first floor is not getting rented because they don't believe the funders or the renter, the commercial renters, either way, the funders for the building or the commercial businesses don't believe that the building itself will support their enterprise, and they don't believe that the community surrounding will support the enterprise. So, for example, for the Gramercy Apartments, which is Washington and Bolton Gramercy, they've given up on the idea of having a cafe in the 2,500 square foot space set aside as a cafe in the development. And it will be a really great nonprofit program in that space, but it's not going to have any economic catalyst type activity. It'll be a great thing, but not an economic catalyst. And I think the senior building on Crenshaw, west side of Manchester South of Islands, has been open for some years and still doesn't have anything for commercial rental. So that's the kind of thing that Dan Perry still talks about and talking about. So I'm not sure CD10 is doing the most. We have a lot. And I'm suddenly forgetting what it's called, but mixed income development is what we need, not just one or another. We don't need all luxury market either. So, but maybe the controller, if the current controller doesn't have it, the new controller says they're good with numbers. Maybe that would be an excellent suggestion. Let's see what the truth is citywide. Who has which affordable projects? We do have a lot. I'm not sure we have them. Although I like to say we have a lot when I go to City Planning Commission to say, whatever, this project's not great. And we are proud of the fact that within UNNC, we've supported a lot of housing, and half of it is. So there's a reason why we should be proud of it too.
Okay. Kind of got off track there.
Yes, we
so
did.
we're at 6s and 7s though, because we don't have Hakeem here to lead this discussion.
Correct.
So.
All right.
Filling the void here.
So I think what we want to say though, when we talk to Hakeem, John, then I guess both of us have talked to him, maybe a double email. Or I'll see him on a week from now. But is the concerns, the same concerns we had brought up in mid-November were then brought to our community members. The big concern is the existing neighbors, people who live there now. What is going to be done to make sure they're not flooding? I mean, that's a concern from the neighborhood. Concern from others is the over concentration.
And Laura, after the meeting, let's delegate who is going to be following up with Hakeem and pursuing him and making sure this happens.
Well, whoever's following up, the other person should be on the email anyway.
Okay. Any other comments on that? So I apologize for only having a quarter of a discussion on that, or less, for everyone who showed up for that. I think that is it for our agenda. Let me just check. Yep.
Out of order, but we did everything.
We did. Yep. That's it. Okay.
Teresa has her hand up.
So,
Thank you. Donna and I would like to add something to a future agenda. What is the best way to do that? It is about the improper zoning for a conditional use permit. Church has established alternative school, which does not have a permit for. So
Again,
and some of the students are getting high. Somebody threw a bottle at one of the local residents who was walking down the street. So I would like to add this to the agenda. I don't know if, what is the proper procedure, or is this something that planning and zoning can help us with?
so I think that's the question right there. Is this a planning and zoning? Is it a, because there's code enforcement, which isn't our job. So it's is it a policy decision? Is it a CIS? Is it, those are things we can do. So I would say you brought it up, so that's great. So this is the same issue on Manhattan and Washington, correct?
It's similar, John. It's not the same. I mean,
So-
running a school in a building that wasn't approved.
Same location.
No.
No.
This is on Adams and 11th. It's a
Oh,
church,
okay.
the McCarthy Church.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when I said again, John, I meant over the years, and we've had a series of different pastors over the years, as the church has had a dwindling congregation, they've brought in charter schools that weren't really chartered. I mean, it's been ongoing because of how do we use our space, and how do we also conduct our mission. So the issue now, Teresa, politically is that the current pastor is political. So I also don't know exactly. I think we would just have to reach out to him and say, can you come and address the community on this?
Elizabeth, just note this is not a discussion right now, but it's a suggestion, so facts only. But Elizabeth, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also, in terms of figuring out if it's an enforcement issue or what, I don't know if you've talked to the council office yet, but that's a good place to start, and they could help figure out where to take it.
We have. I would just thank you, Elizabeth. I just wasn't sure if planning and zoning could help us with this also, because it is a violation of the CUP. So
In the past, planning and zoning included the code enforcement function, and then we created a temporary code enforcement subcommittee, and had a little bit of success meeting with building and safety in general terms of code enforcement issues, and then building and safety people have been scaled and didn't like that people.
all right. We'll continue to work with the council
So
district.
but none of the people who were running that committee, subcommittee remain on the neighborhood council. So I think, John, we could see if we could put this on the agenda, but in this case, I'd want to make sure a particular person who would be running the show would agree to come. You know, have an open conversation. I don't know.
So are you saying that Don and I should ask the pastor if he would come to a planning and zoning meeting? Is that what I meant to say?
I kind of feel, but, or is there a code enforcement complaint already put in? If you know.
It's been decided before, Laura. It went to code enforcement. There was a decision.
Yes,
They were told they could not do it.
yeah,
No.
different, yeah, I understand, Donna, but remember
it-
that was the difference.
And it's the same school back again. So
Oh.
we're just wondering, you know.
Oh, it's the same school with a different pastor.
I don't think he was there then.
He
You're right.
wasn't.
It's been
He was
about
not.
10 years. It's
Yeah,
been about,
this a long time before, but it's the same unchartered charter school.
right.
Great. That's perfect.
So what they do is just turn around and try to monetize the church again.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah, perfect.
John, what do you want to do? I mean, we're not doing anything for a
We're not
month.
doing anything, we're not doing anything tonight, so let's,
Yeah,
yeah, Taylor.
So during this discussion, I've been Googling, and I did find some really good data on council by council, affordable housing, burdened households, homeless populations, all that good stuff. Happy to share it with the group if they're interested.
yes.
The highlight that I could share is that for subsidized housing, we have less than half of what CD1 and CD14 have. Per capita, they have triple the amount of subsidized housing that we do. CD13 and 15, they also have 50% more subsidized housing than we do. So we're not a star or an outlier in this area at all.
Yeah,
Happy to share the full report.
anecdotally, most of my work's in 8 and 9. So
Well-
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you. But there are 15 council districts. So you just listed 4 that have more subsidized housing than we do.
Yeah, so there are outliers on the other side too. So Council District 12 and Council District 5 are very, very poor showers here, as I think we would all expect from John Lee and Paul Koretz's districts.
Well, hasn't John Lee not even allowed one of these, all the other council offices put in some homeless, these little small houses? And John Lee said, no.
I don't know the details, but yeah, we're not doing the worst, but we're not doing the most. So yeah, that is what it is.
Thank you.
okay. Let's call it quits. Thanks for everybody.
Right.
Everybody have a great holiday. Everyone gets a time to rest.
Thank you
And-
guys very much.
And you guys, don't forget, there's a lot of information in the chat tonight, so don't forget to save your chat. It's not that you can't email us and get it, but
If you don't know how to do it, hit the 3 red dots, the 3 little dots at the lower right. Like everybody.
All right. Good night.
and by the way, just so you know how funny the live transcript is, it said, don't forget to save your George
That too.
instead of save your chat. Okay,
Bye. Oh, good night.
okay, good night, everybody.